Okay, so let's make this wall textures that we did inside of Substance inside of Zbrush without having to go into Substance for some of them. Like the important ones, a normal or even a height map or something like that. So let's do that. How do we do that? Well, we have our plane and the background here, so it's the perfect square. And we have our bricks laid over the top of it so they break the surface all over the place. And then we can come to our document and zoom out just like we did the other day so we can have it full screen. We want to be off that line. And then I'm going to grab the background plane and push F, right? And see, it's still not very happy with it, so I'm going to push F again with that hidden, just so it's hidden. I'm going to turn that back on, and then I'm going to look at this. Now, I don't have any, I could do some gravel stuff, and maybe we'll do that next week inside of here, or some kind of extra bump for the grout. But I'm not super worried about it at this point because the textures will be that way. So let's just get the maps out of here. The first thing we're going to do is super simple. You're not going to believe how easy this is. This is going to give us a height map. It's going to give us the variance in height. All we have to do is go to the alpha channel, go all the way down to grab doc, and click that button. And what you'll get is a map that looks like this. Believe it or not, that is a height map. So I can export this now, and then I'm going to send it to where I want to send it. I'm going to send it to here, say OK, and save. And then I'm going to turn this back off, just so I don't have that worrying anything that I do next by accident. And then to get a normal map out of here, now I've heard that there's better maps for this, but all you have to do is go to your material. Believe it or not, there's a normal RGB matte. Put that on, and instead of doing it from alpha, we're going to do it from texture, and we're going to say grab doc. We don't need the depth, just the grab the doc. And then we're going to do the same thing. We're going to say export. We're going to say normal map, and bam. So now we need another thing we want to add to this. Now this one's a little bit more tricky. So what we want to do is go to standard color again. We'll just do, we can just do probably could do a flat color even. And then we're going to come to select one of the background or the foreground, okay? And this is something we haven't done before. And we're going to pick a color. If we want it to be red, we're going to say red. Everything's going to go red at first, that's fine. But we're going to hide the bricks just so we can see this. Now with this at red, we're going to say color up to this menu and say fill object. And now we've got that in red. Then we're going to change it to yellow, all right, or something like that. And then I'm going to turn this back on, and suddenly you're going to see this is yellow and that is red. So I'm going to say fill object. Well, I'm going to grab the bricks, and this time I'm going to say fill object again. Now I'm going to grab that texture again, grab doc, and now I've got my color. And then I'm going to export this. I'm going to call this color map. And before we go over to Substance, I want to tell you a couple things that are going on. First off, this is the map that it's going to use. First off, before you do any sculpting or anything, you're going to want to change that out. How do you do that? You just say texture off. When you change your brushes to whatever you end up changing them to, if you have something in there, it's going to paint with that. So just make sure you turn it off. The other thing you need to do is understand anyway, is that now you'll notice that these two things have little paintbrushes on them. That means that they have the texture turned on. What that is doing is turning on down here in what's called, not polygroups, my goodness, polypaint. You'll see it says colorized. So if I turn off, if I could do this like I used to, which I guess you can't, there you go. If I turn it off, you'll see I'll turn off colorize, and that little paintbrush goes away. Now once I turn this back to white, that beat back to the white. And if I click this one here and turn colorize off, it goes away too. So those little paintbrushes, you don't have to come down here to do this, is the key thing though. You can do it from right here. You can just turn them on like that. So when you're ready to start working in color, if you wanted to paint here, you could do that. You just need to be cleaning these off otherwise so you can see what you're doing. And then if I go to this, it'll be fine. If I had them on with this, they'd just be red and yellow in the 3D. And then we're going to go over to Substance. We could probably do a couple more, but we'll just go over to Substance at this point. And I brought in the normal and the height map already. I'm not even going to use the height map, but I'll bring in the color map. I just drag it in here into the texture area or into the shelf area. And then I say make this a texture, and I say do this to that. And I'm going to change it to that. Current session, import. So what we're going to do now is go over to our baking, because it's the first thing we do, right? But this time we're going to do it a little bit differently. We're going to take that normal map that I have, that I brought in. So what I'm going to do is just drag this normal map up to the normal, bam, and look, it automatically pops it in. And then I'm going to drag this color map to this ID map and say, bam, drag it in there. I don't need the height map. I'm going to use that a little bit later possibly. But now, how do I get the rest of the maps to match up? So what you do, and you can say combine or you can say replace. We're going to leave it on combine, that's default. And we're going to say bake map, mesh maps, come in here, and we're going to tell it to not bake the normal map and not bake the ID map and just bake everything else. And we're going to say, okay. And look at that, it baked the normal. It baked all these other maps from the normal we already had in there. So if we go back and we look at this inside of here, and I go fill, and I put like brown on here or something, red. Red's the color of the day. There we go, orange-ish. There we go. And then I come up to here and I say mask. I can look at my mask, my color selection mask. I can pick a color, and there's my red, and there it is. So you can see by doing this, I have full control over everything, and the maps are almost exactly the same. In fact, you could even bake it now and add to the mapping. In fact, if you ask me, this map looks a lot better than when I baked it because it's got those sharp edges without me even trying to do anything. You could also, for that matter, take this fill layer, make a new layer up here, and turn off everything but the normal, and drag that into the normal, and it'll just push it even more. And then you can decide how much you want to push it by turning it down or up. Oh, I guess I got to be on the normal layer though. Hold on. Change this to normal, and then this. Down or up. You know, we can push it even a little bit tighter. Okay, and then we could also try the height map in here. I'll turn on the height map and I'll turn off the normal just to see what it does. We'll take this height map and we'll throw it in the height map area, and instead of using the bar, it uses the height map. Now, what does that mean? Well, I could come in here and see how the height map, if I like that better, just turn off this, and that's what the height map looks like, okay, by itself. So I could take this and duplicate it, or duplicate it maybe? You're going to duplicate yourself, please? Thank you. And I can get something like that. It's a lot easier to work with height maps when you're painting, but we have a normal map so we don't have to do that dance. So come back in here, throw the world space, throw this map that we just made into the normal. Now, more complex models may not work this way. This just gives you the two options to get to it.